10 Lessons from Successful One-Person Startups. And I believe this is by Leonardo Creed. This is Engineers Codex, where I write about lessons of outperformance from real-world engineers, or engineering and engineers. So I actually bookmarked this article because I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I like building side projects. I like learning about marketing. I like the idea of being able to build a product, a SaaS product, and being able to launch it, right? It's something that I want to learn more about and try. And when I polled my community, I think like 90% of people wanted that financial freedom to potentially do something like that or freelancing as a developer. So I think this is a good article. We're going to jump into it. The recent state of the tech market, the advent of AI, and inflationary pressures have caused many software engineers to pursue entrepreneurship. There's a growing niche for full-time software engineers with side hustles, both software and non-software. There are also indie hackers, people who run one-person bootstrapped businesses. Side ventures and indie hacking are not new. People have been doing this for decades. I talked to indie hackers and software engineers with successful side ventures, 20K plus a month, to see what I could learn. Okay, so that's the definition of success, 20K a month. Wow, okay. Example, well, is that the same translation? The same benchmark for that word of success? I don't know. We'll see. Peter Levels and Tony, John, 3 successful people, apparently. These are very public indie hackers, and I don't follow indie hackers. There are many more who aren't public about their ventures for various reasons, such as privacy and competition. You can find more stories at Indie Hackers or Start a Story. Affiliate link, got it. How to build a successful one-person business. What makes indie hackers successful? Ship fast and often. They use familiar stacks to ship fast. I think that's actually a really important part. This is important. Like if you are a developer, you are familiar with a stack, use the stack that you're working with. Use the stack that you're most familiar with. You're probably going to get your project up faster using that stack. I agree with that. For example, Peter Levels use PHP and jQuery. They go from idea to MVP very quickly. Tony Din said type mines MVP took him 2 days. Typing mines, 2 days. Wow. Small bets. Most projects released are pretty small, simple and small, making it easy for them to release, validate, and maintain multiple products. Marketing. And I think a lot of people, and I've even talked to other developers that they put what's supposed to be this product on a huge pedestal, and you got to realize like a lot of MVPs are really simple. They solve a very specific problem, and they don't necessarily need to look good, right? But I think you need to show the concept and show that it can solve people's problem. Marketing Unlocked, the above listed have marketed amazingly through their personal brands on Twitter. They have thousands of followers. Other indie hackers have marketed through paid ads, SEO, and other standard techniques. It's common for engineers to skip this part, but in reality, building the product is just half the work. Marketing is the other, and often harder. Common way of marketing is building in public. Indie hackers will share the journey of building their product. Screenshots of MRR, monthly reoccurring revenue, commonly bring the most engagement on social media platforms. I wonder, that's interesting. I wonder if, like, let's say you only have one customer and you have like $20 a month. Does that bring engagement? What if you have no customers and you showcase that? Does that bring engagement? Like, do people just like seeing where you're at in the journey, or do people like seeing your product grow? Working through failure. Most projects shipped by indie hackers failed, but they didn't quit. They kept shipping until something worked. Right? Selection bias. I included selection bias because indie hacking to the scale of those above is an impressive feat. It's impressive because it's uncommon. There are thousands of stories online about failed indie hackers, people who quit their jobs, tried entrepreneurship and failed. It's not all rosy. Stop that. Yo. The number of... I can't say I know a lot of indie hackers. I've met several Twitch streamers that I guess would call indie hackers. And the lesson that I've learned from them is don't quit your full-time job. Don't quit the job paying your bills, because what you're doing is probably going to fail. And I think if you can get a financial backing with that understanding, and that usually means keeping up your job and doing this on the side, then man, am I skeptical about like ever recommending someone, a developer, quit their job without years of savings or at least a good financial plan if things don't work out. It just seems like a terrible option. Because Because I feel like most indie hackers fail and they give up, don't they? And then what happens? Am I wrong about that? It's impressive because it's uncommon. I'm not wrong about that. There are thousands of stories online about failed indie hackers, people who quit their jobs, tried entrepreneurship, and failed. It's not all rosy. I just read that. You ever just like read something and it just like goes in one ear and out the other? And then I just ranted about basically what I just read and pretended like it was what I was thinking. Okay, we're moving on. So I think most people fail with this venture. I've had professional developers that I know who have built side projects who I think a lot of people realize this is way more than development. I think the idea of financial freedom is great, but man, you have to be hungry to learn things outside of development. And even like trying to, do this full time on YouTube and provide mentorship for aspiring developers, it's been extremely hard. It was much, much easier to learn how to code, much easier to get into the industry and grow within the industry. Man, is it hard to create a brand new business and create sustainable revenue and actually scale that. I suck at it terribly. I have a lot to learn, but it is really hard. I spent my last 12 years building companies. They all failed. I didn't earn a penny. Really? You didn't earn a penny? I feel like you're exaggerating. You probably earned something. I didn't even get venture capital, and it made me feel like a failure. And I'm talking about serious attempts, 6 years, 2 years, 1 year, and in between a lot of research and freelancing. So did you just have like a just negative profit the whole time? Is that what you're like? You probably earned revenue. You just didn't earn profit. So you didn't take investment money. After losing my $38K in savings as an indie hacker. So yeah, this person earned revenue, not profit. Okay. The cost of indie hacking. Indie hacking is not free and it's not easy. Most indie hackers don't generate the type of income of those listed above. Most fail. By the way, quitting with $38,000 is not a lot. This is terrible. I learned this the hard way. You're just gonna have a rough time. Most indie hackers don't generate the type of income. Most indie projects don't require much startup cost other than time. However, the real opportunity cost is a stable income and benefits from a full-time job. Indie hacking full-time seems more viable for those in the non-US countries. A common indie hacker goal is $10K a month, which comes to about $120K a year. Right. Moving to a much cheaper country with a very low cost of living is an option. But also, like, if you're in the US, just move to a state that no one wants to move to with rents that are very low. You could probably look this up, but I don't think every low-income area is going to be an incredibly high crime rate, right? You just don't want to move where you need to. It sounds more exotic to move to a brand new country to then become this entrepreneur. And I think a lot of people are in love with the idea of being an indie hacker and doing the common indie hacker thing of moving to another country, lowering your expenses that way, and then eventually having to move back into your parents' house. I think that's probably a bigger reality. Maybe I'm wrong with this. But yeah, move to a low income area if you can. While this is a great income, a 22-year-old software engineer working at FANG can make over $200K a year in total compensation. An average senior engineer at an established big tech company can pull in over $350K a year in total compensation. And remember, like, I haven't looked at any specific FANG contracts, but just make sure you know what the state laws are that protect you as a inventor. I think that's the word you want to look for. Maybe. I don't know. But like Illinois, when I was a developer, I believe I had state laws, like, contact an attorney about all this. I'm not a professional attorney, but I believe I had state laws that protected me that when I created something outside of company hours, out or without company resources, I owned that invention. There are probably, like, if you really are an entrepreneur, but I think you want to talk to an attorney. I think you want to truly understand the contract that you're signing, because I know a lot of software engineers that will sign away their rights to what they create to the company without even knowing it. And that is sad to see, right? That forces you to quit the company. That forces, and I think it's a really shitty thing for a company to do, but that forces you to make bad decisions to finally try this entrepreneurship venture. At those kinds of levels, the risk reward changes a lot. It's a lot easier to make $15K a month and work your way up to $30K a month in stability than face the opportunity cost of failure when indie hacking. Furthermore, in the US, indie hacking doesn't come with a stable income. Healthcare, I was not ready for the cost of healthcare. 401k matching, I ain't dumping anything in my 401k. And other employer-tied perks. To make indie hacking financially worth it, it can't only match a software engineer's full-time income. It must overtake it, which is quite hard to do. Not necessarily. I guess, okay, to make it financially worth it. But I think a lot of people that are trying to create these, maybe I'm just speaking for myself. No, I'm not just speaking for myself. I know a lot of people feel this way. But a lot of people have this entrepreneurship spirit in them. They want to create something. They want to build something. They want to build a legacy, or they want to build something that helps the world, or they just want to see how much they could profit off of the market, right? But they need that freedom outside of the restrictions of working for a company to be able to do that. Companies restrict a lot of creativity. You're locked into your role. And even in the startup world, you're going to find that you are still locked into your role for the most part. You don't have the freedom to be able to try to take a certain direction within that company. And you shouldn't necessarily be able to do that when that startup is paying other full-time employees. But I think there's this drive, there's this fire, there's this hunger to build something of your own, to break away from this normal 9 to 5. From, I'm supposed to do this and follow the company's guidelines and restrictions and do what the company wants me to do. I think a lot of people appreciate the freedom of building something else. So I don't think this is that big of a deal where you need to match your full-time income with that side project. I think a lot of people would be happy just being able to pay their own bills and having that complete financial freedom. Side hustles. Instead, I'm seeing a lot more software engineers, especially those in big tech, start side hustles. This allows them to have the best of both worlds, stability and high income of a full-time job and the creativity and ownership of entrepreneurship. They automatically start off with a safety net from their job. Any other side income is now a cherry on top at the cost of their free time. I think most people should do this. Everyone I talked to had the itch for entrepreneurship, but didn't have the risk tolerance to eat the opportunity cost of their jobs. I would be curious. See, the thing is, you talk to a lot of indie hackers, and there are a lot of reasons why they say that you should quit your job. You only have so much mental energy in the day. Let's say you don't have a really restrictive contract that will take over your inventions, that will take over side revenue or anything like that, or that won't allow moonlighting. A lot of indie hackers will. It's kind of just buy into what they've already done, and they've convinced themselves it's the right thing to do, no matter how much debt they're going into. But the big argument is because you only have so much mental energy in the day to do a 9 to 5, to do a 9 to 6, to then, especially if you have family, other responsibilities, to then 2 to 3 hours a day, maybe a good chunk of your weekend, to then try to build this business up on the side. It sucks. Just think about trying to become a developer with a full-time job and other responsibilities. It sucks. It's hard to carve out that time, especially for a business that most likely will fail, a venture that most likely will fail. And a lot of, but I think there's also a healthy perspective on it. Even if it fails, you're still growing significantly as an entrepreneur by trying it. So I think most people right now, if they want to do this, even if you had $100,000 in the bank, I still recommend most people to do a side hustle, to build it on the side. Make sure you're legally secure with it, but build it on the side, see where the revenue. And like a lot of times I see a lot of people that'll do like a side hustle, but they won't lower their expenses, right? Now you're getting a little bit of side revenue. So you up your expenses, you up your lifestyle. And then how the hell are you supposed to transition this side hustle into your main thing when you've upped your lifestyle? Because now you're earning a lot more money from your side hustle and your main job. I think there's a big sacrifice you need to make. And I've seen successful people that have done these side hustle things make that you got to give up a lot. You got to give up a lifestyle and allow that lifestyle to come long term. And I think a lot of people are very attached to their lifestyle, and it's a very difficult thing to do. I still think most people should build that side hustle and be patient with it. I see too many failures. I don't want to see people dumping all of their savings into something when they don't need to do that, when they can build it up on the side, and they need to teach themselves how to be able to partition their mental energy and just even regain that energy. Sometimes it's just like you're not working out enough, right? You get a lot more energy when you are physically healthy. You get a lot more energy when you eat right? So if you feel like you don't have that extra energy, why do I keep saying energy? When you feel like you don't have that extra energy at the end of the day, there's a lot more that you can do to make sure that energy bar is much larger. Increasing your mana. I talked to a couple of engineers. Sorry, I lost my point. I talked to a couple of engineers who chose to stay anonymous that have lucrative software side hustles, 20K a month, such as mobile fitness app, a no-code website builder, and a video game inventory manager. And a lot of developers should consider building like a no-code prototype, a low-code prototype. Others choose to go the non-software route, but these are more well-known and thus out of focus for this issue. Courses, content creation. A lot of developers do this. Newsletters, communities, real estate, and more. Rather than list off ideas, I ask successful side hustle engineers their best advice for managing a full-time job in their side ventures. Lessons from successful side ventures. Focus on the intersection of your unfair advantages and passions. For many, this was a distribution advantage. For example, some of them had a friend that had a huge YouTube channel, allowing them an easy distribution advantage. I don't think you should count on that, even if you have that friend with a big YouTube channel. Is that like really a thing? I guess if you create the right connections, so you could create a lot of buy-in towards what you're doing by hacking in public or building in public. I think that's how you get more natural support, more natural shout-outs, and better conversion for what you're doing, rather than just depending on that one friend with a big YouTube channel. Even if that friend decides that they want to shout you out, even though it's not part of their normal content that their users expect. Like, I think about even Twitch raids. And I hear about different big shout outs that don't really have a lot of high conversions when the channel isn't like directly related. So I think you really need to have a perfect pairing of the audience of that big YouTuber and that shout out with the product. When that aligns, I could see that being very effective. When that doesn't align, it's not worth your friend doing that. And I don't think you should ask your friend to do that, to create a video that their audience isn't going to give a crap about. It's going to feel salesy because it has nothing to do with the channel. I feel like you're better off building a reputation among the community of just building in public. I think that's a really strong strategy that I've seen work pretty well. At least bringing, new indie hackers like thousands every month to be able to like pay the bare minimum bills when you lower your cost of living. Others had a knowledge or credibility advantage that wasn't easily found or compiled together online. For example, one founder I talked to was a distinguished machine learning engineer, was able to leverage this to create a niche AI product to sell to non-tech businesses. Okay. That's unique. And I think a lot of developers have a huge advantage, and they have a bit of, I don't know. You know what? Any developer could just connect with ChatGPT and call it an AI product. They do it. They just do it. I don't think you have to have, you don't need to be a distinguished machine learning engineer. I think you just put AI in the name of your product. To be honest, that's just what I see happening. We're just going to move on. Some had a skill advantage. They could develop web applications fast or write well. A lot of developers have a huge skill advantage. This is one reason I love JavaScript. Regardless of what you think about the actual syntax, like you can build almost anything you want, create any company, almost any company that you want through one language. I think that's pretty powerful. And you can use whatever language you're comfortable with. I agree with the advice of stick with the stack that you're comfortable with. You're probably going to build the thing the quickest. And really, you don't, like when you're building a new company, you really don't want to try, if you can avoid it, you don't want to make a technically complex product that also takes a lot of time to build when you don't really have any validation with the market. You want to build something simple. I think a lot of people will, this is why I recommend, like a lot of developers, I know you love coding, but consider building like a low code solution to push out a prototype and like just see if it has a market fit. I think that's a really common and successful way I've seen people doing it. Maintain non-negotiable consistency. This is the hardest part. Holy shit. This is one of the hardest parts when you quit your job. One of the most common struggles that came up was motivation. With full-time jobs, it was easy to rest on their laurels. When it came to building their side venture, especially if the venture was not growing as fast as they expected. This is why having a passion for what you're building is important. Everyone had different strategies to stay consistent. My favorite strategy was called the pause music strategy okay, all right, I'm listening. For lack of a better name, each week one engineer I talked to would play a 10-hour-long soundtrack on YouTube while working on his mobile app. Anytime he got distracted, he would pause the video and would only unpause once his focus was back. He went through the soundtrack twice during the week. This forced him to have 20 hours of focused work in a week, and he told himself he would stick to it for a whole year before quitting. His application, an AI fitness app, got traction 7 months in. That's really interesting. I do that with a timer, and I pause my timer for... I need to be stricter about this, but I have a timer where I'll pause it every time I get distracted. I'll pause it every time I get up, even little breaks. I probably should be stricter because I believe in timing focused work and, more importantly, work that's going to move the needle forward for whatever I'm building, for my YouTube channel, for my mentorship, for whatever I'm building. But this is interesting. I would get tired of the music, though. That's the only problem with that. I would just replace this with a timer, and I think you're set. But your mind will get trained with the same music to be focused. You can attach, like you could perk yourself up by listening to the same type of music every time you code. You could pair that. It becomes easier to get your head in that space when it hears that music. It's easier to do it when you have visuals that align. Like if you have a cluttered desk. Generally, that's going to bring a little bit more stress and kind of take a little bit more mental energy out of you without you even realizing it. But if you have a desk, a dedicated work area to go to, you go to that work area, your mindset starts preparing itself for the work that's going to be done. If you have certain smells, right, that might be distracting, or you might just be used to while you work on like high focus work. Like if you just have like a air freshener in your office, and you have it just in that office, and you start working, every time that smell hits you, you are going to feel like your mindset become more focused on that work that you've been doing while you've been smelling that smell. I think that works with smell. I think it's very effective visually. I think it's very effective auditory. But try to pair that stuff, and even just like the idea of having a dedicated workspace, if you can get it at home, and having no distractions and just trying to lock yourself in to that environment, to those senses, I think can be very helpful. But man, is it hard to keep that motivation up for a very long time. It's very hard. You're going to realize, even just like your first time working at home, how difficult it is to create really good habits, create a really good pattern and a system to be able to do it every single day. That's a very difficult thing to do. Choose one thing at a time. Software engineering is, in my opinion, a creative discipline. The longer you stay in the industry, the more problems you see and ideas you have. That is true. And it's one thing I see more so with the startup world as well, which is why I love startups. However, spreading yourself thin is a great way to fail. Most engineers had great ideas, but found that focusing on one product at a time was the way they succeeded. I probably need to make note of this. That sounds legit. The best strategy I heard for this. Yeah, well, actually, one thing that I learned is I used to think multitasking was a really effective way to be the most productive I could be throughout the day. And I found that my attention kept getting worse and worse on a single task the more I would multitask. I think multitasking, it used to be a very, very, very popular thing. And I think at work specifically, and I find that I think most people have found that it's not a very effective way at building the right habits and building the right attention habits to focus on the work that needs to get done for long periods of time. The best strategy I heard for this was 2-month sprints. One engineer would work on an idea during nights and weekends for 2 months. At the end of 2 months, he would reevaluate progress. This allowed him to explore his ideas deeply enough to where he finally got to the end of a 2-month sprint and thought, I could do a 12-month sprint with this one. 2 months, huh? Okay. Have a marketing strategy beforehand. Software engineers can usually build good products, but selling them is rough. Engineers I talked to had various strategies. Some gave themselves a goal to perform one marketing task a day. This commonly was either one social media post or a cold email sent. Others built distribution advantages first, like a social media following or a personal brand. I think most are doing this, and I think content creation, I think that strategy is one of the best strategies that you can implement. You build strong connections with your customers by building a brand and building fans. I think this is really powerful. Some utilize the income from their full-time job to run paid ads. Patrick McKenzie has some great advice on marketing for engineers. Okay. I think content strategy is going to be people's best bet. There are certain businesses that'll probably, you could build up a reputation. Like, if your ad gets placed in front of someone like 7 times, I think that's the amount of times it takes for them to finally kind of recognize your brand and pay attention to it. I might be way off with that, but if you could dump enough money into paid ads, I wonder if you could build up you're probably going to build up the reputation from people using your services. So I think then it's about word of mouth, and it's about people creating Reddit posts and mentioning you on Twitter and stuff like that, because you're creating such a good experience for your customers. So you could probably build a reputation with paid ads, but I've heard from a lot of business owners that have managed a lot of different staff, big teams. Paid ads for most businesses tends to not really build a big reputation. It's not necessarily good for getting your name out there initially. It can be profitable, but I don't think it's like a reputation builder to scale and get your brand out in front of people. I feel like content creation and this strategy is probably one of the most effective things that an indie hacker can do, or anyone, any side hustle that a developer is pursuing. Protect your mental health at all costs. It'd be easy to burn out with a full-time job. Adding the time, effort, and stress of another venture on top of that can be an easy recipe to burnout. Take time off as needed. One engineer described himself as a severe workaholic and actually forced himself to schedule time to play video games for a few hours a week in order to de-stress. Remember your final goal. Most of these engineers liked their full-time jobs and did not want to quit. As a result, it wasn't worth burning themselves out for a side venture. I think some people just want to try it too and see if it's for them. I think entrepreneurship is for very few people long term, but I think most people should consider trying it to find out if it is for you. Some people would hire help after they got a certain revenue point, like customer support assistant or marketing agency. An important note, the people I interviewed are rare cases. 99% of the time, it's easier for someone to find a better paying job to increase their income. Software engineering, which is true. Software engineering is, and this is true for freelance developing too. Software engineering is extremely well paid, and putting in the work to get a higher income full-time role can pay much higher dividends with less risk compared to starting a business on the side. However, for many engineers, it's less about the money and more about scratching that entrepreneurial itch. Ventures and businesses have unlimited upside, which is what makes them so attractive. And that is true. I think maybe I don't know if I'm biased with this or not, because this is how I truly am, but I feel like a lot of successful indie hackers that will do it long term and stick with it and won't go back to a dev job are very passionate. They have a fire under their butt. They want to do this. They want to build this thing. They like creating. They like seeing users use their thing. They like seeing businesses purchase their thing. And I think like you get aha moments as a developer from accomplishing certain tasks. You get aha moments as a developer from just like getting a little bit better, solving a problem that you weren't able to solve last week, being able to use a technology that you weren't able to use last week or last month. And those aha moments they can kind of be not milestones, but they can kind of be a little bit of a guide for you. Like, this thing that I just did, I enjoyed doing. I wonder what else I can be curious about and explore in the programming world that'll also give me a similar aha moment that has a similar problem. You can allow that to guide your curiosity and light that fire under your butt as an aspiring developer and as a professional developer. And I feel like you need to find that as an entrepreneur. And you got to try a bunch of stuff, and I think you got to fail. And the best way to financially support that strategy is to not quit your job that pays the bills. Maybe I'm wrong with that. I know how difficult it can be to work full-time and do something on the side, as I have done in the past, but it just feels like a very rough market to save up, at least right now, to save up like $38,000 and quit and let's go. Yeah, anyways, those are my thoughts with it. I think this is interesting. I have been considering building a SaaS product for a while. I am slowly working on it on the side. I'm very curious how it's going to do. So I just want to read this article. I thought it was a really good article. And I probably should get more involved with the indie hacker community if I can manage to even want to participate on Twitter. Maybe we'll get there one day.